The result of a machine learning project is either a one-time output, like, for example, a clustering specification, or a deployment, which performs ongoing scoring as part of a business process, such as credit scoring or pricing optimization. With RapidMiner, you have two options to create models and put them into production. You can use the Design view of RapidMiner Studio to create, run, and schedule processes, or alternatively, you can also use the more guided approach of RapidMiner Auto Model in combination with the Model Operations feature. In this tutorial, we are in the latter path, and in particular, we are providing an introduction and overview to the Model Operations feature, which is all about deployments. You can access Model Operations directly through the Deployments button. When you start it for the first time, RapidMiner Studio asks you to create a deployment location, which is basically a dedicated folder where things are stored. So, when you create your first location, you should consider if you will only do things locally and on your own. Then, a local location will be fine. However, if you want to collaborate, use other computation resources than just your personal computer, and maybe even have a web service available to integrate your scoring with other systems, then you should choose a remote location. In each of your locations, you can have multiple independent deployments, so your projects could be spread across multiple locations and deployments. Note that a remote location means things will be set up on a RapidMiner server, so you are required to have access to one. Now enough of this, I'm sure you got it. For the rest of this demo, I am switching over to a setup where I have a full-blown deployment in a remote location. This deployment is about forecasting on-time arrivals of flights in New England. Knowing if a plane will be on time as early as possible helps with planning ground and passenger logistics, and so this is an example of a predictive process that will be run continuously. The dashboard, which you see here, is the usual place where you would check for the latest details or alerts when managing an active deployment. However, for the purpose of this introduction, the better place to start is the Models tab, because this is where you see the models which were created and added to this deployment via Auto Model. The one listed at the top is your active model, and below are the challengers. We can also see details like the error rate during training or metadata like creation date and author. Every time new data is sent to this deployment for scoring, all models are executed by default, which allows you to keep track of their performance. If one of your challengers starts to outperform the active model, you can just switch them. You don't have to come in here and check the performance periodically, as you can create an email alert in the Alerts tab. This deployment has been activated, so the predictions could be integrated through a web service and could be consumed by another application. The Integrations tab has all the details you would need for that, including an option to test things out. Now, to resume our tour on the Models tab. We can take a look at any of the models and all its details. For example, we can see the actual model here, but also the training data that was used for training, the code of the RapidMiner process, and all other results and details. We provide and show this to you in such detail here because it is really important to have this available for governance and compliance reasons. For example, with the right to explanation in GDPR or any anti-discrimination law, you may be required to document that your model is not biased, how it was built, and how the class for a certain request was determined. Okay, now with models, alerts, and integrations covered, let's look at the remaining tabs. First, some words about drift and the Drifts tab. Drift can happen when the characteristics of your input attributes change over time. As a consequence, the prediction error may increase. In the scenario of flight delays, it may be that the model was trained with data of stable, nice weather conditions, but in locations with a seasonal cycle, the weather changes, and so the weather delay may experience drift. Drift can also be an indicator for bias in the selection of the training data, so it is good to monitor it. If the drift is getting too large, then the model should be retrained. By the way, drift monitoring with alerts can also be set up as shown before in the Alerts tab. Another feature built into Model Operations, which you may already be familiar with from Auto Model, is the simulator. It can be used to test what-if scenarios, which helps to get a better feeling for your model. As an example, I can test how delays will impact my on-time prediction for a certain flight. Alternatively, you can use optimize for a prescriptive approach. In our scenario, the question could be, if the plane is provided too late for a certain flight, then how do we have to influence taxi time and the departure slot to still maximize our chance that the plane will arrive at its destination on time? On the Scoring tab, you can score unseen data or upload actuals manually. Feeding back the actuals is a crucial piece of maintenance work, so you can keep an eye on your model's ongoing performance over time. Speaking of performance, there are two ways to see what's going on with your deployment. The first is the more general one, namely the dashboard. It gives you a lot of useful, mostly aggregated numbers and details for a time span of your choice. Now for the full details, the best place to look is the Performance tab, which is the heart of the model management. To have this tab show you all the analytics, make sure to provide the actuals where you have them. As first item on this tab, you can see the current active model, and you could set your charts to show only that if you want. The main charts are showing you how many data examples have been scored, what the error rate was, and most importantly, how much you gain by using the predictions. For this introduction, we'll leave you with this teaser. For more details on the charts, we recommend you have a look at the help and refer to our other materials on model management. We hope you will enjoy our model operations as much as we do. Thank you very much for watching.